you've ever stared at the ceiling with no energy to move, if you've felt the weight of your own thoughts pulling you down into a fog of apathy, or if you've looked at your life and quietly whispered, "What's the point then? This video is for you." Watch until the end, because what you'll hear is not just a reminder to keep going, but a path, a spiritual map toward meaning, grounded in the deep wisdom of Buddhism and the lived experience of the human heart. And if you've ever felt that kind of heaviness, drop a comment, "I want to find my fire again," because you are not alone in this. And what you're feeling doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're awake. Modern life offers more comfort than ever before, and yet many of us walk around feeling empty. Not because something's wrong with us, but because the deeper questions, "Why am I here?" What truly matters are no longer whispered by temples and elders. They're drowned out by noise, speed, and distraction. And so we lose touch with something essential, not just motivation, but meaning. And here's where Buddhism comes in, not with shallow positivity, but with ancient clarity. The Buddha didn't promise life would always feel joyful. He never said we'd always be inspired. What he offered instead was a profound teaching that suffering exists, and that it has a cause, but also that there is a way out. When life feels meaningless, we must ask, what am I clinging to? Because meaninglessness often comes when we've built our sense of purpose on unstable ground, on what others think of us, on status, on pleasure, on control. When those things fall away, and they always do, we feel hollow. But what if the answer isn't in chasing more? What if the answer is in slowing down and seeing clearly? In Buddhist practice, motivation doesn't begin with hype. It begins with mindfulness, with stillness, with observing what is without judgment, even the emptiness, even the lack of desire. So the first step is this: stop fighting the feeling of meaninglessness. Let it be. Watch it. Breathe with it. Because underneath that fog is often something sacred, a deep calling to live a more authentic life. Sometimes, what we call meaninglessness is really the death of old illusions. And yes, that feels heavy. It feels like grief. But it is not the end. It is the beginning. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "When you suffer, you can look deeply into it and find its source. Understanding suffering leads to compassion and healing." So what are you suffering from? Maybe it's burnout from trying to meet impossible expectations. Maybe it's loss from a person, a dream, or a version of yourself that no longer fits. Maybe it's disconnection from your own heart, your own breath. Whatever it is, Buddhist wisdom says start there. Start exactly where you are. Don't try to leap into inspiration. Sit in presence. Ask what is really happening inside me. What needs to be seen, not solved? That honesty is where motivation begins, not as energy, but as clarity. Because when you see clearly, you stop running in circles. You stop chasing what doesn't feed your soul. You begin to sense the quiet stirrings of what actually matters. And from there, you take one breath, one step, one moment of stillness. That's the second key. Simplify your focus. When life feels meaningless, it's usually because we've become overwhelmed. We're spread thin. We're tangled in 1,000 threads, and the self gets lost. Buddhism teaches the power of one-pointed attention, bringing the mind back to one task, one breath, one act of care. You don't have to solve your life in one day. You only need to give this moment your presence. Wash the dish with full attention. Write one honest sentence. Go for one walk without your phone. These are not small acts. These are sacred rituals of reconnection. The mind that is scattered cannot feel meaning, but the mind that is present begins to remember itself. The third teaching is perhaps the hardest. Let go of the need for grand purpose. The world tells you that your life needs to be big, that your meaning must be impressive, that you must constantly grow, achieve, accomplish. But Buddhism invites something different. What if your purpose today is to be kind, to care for your body, to speak gently to yourself, to show up for a friend with real presence? These are not lesser meaning. These are human truths. They are what build real motivation, not from the outside, but from within. The Buddha walked from village to village, not in grandeur, but in service. His purpose was not a throne. It was liberation for himself and for others. What if your deepest motivation is not to do more, but to be more real? To strip away false ambition and remember what actually makes your soul feel alive. That's the fourth key: reconnect with your inner values. When you feel lost, go back to the heart. Ask, what do I care about? When no one is watching. What kind of world do I want to help create? Who do I want to be when the lights are off and the applause fades? Motivation isn't a constant flame. It's a quiet ember that must be fed with truth. Your truth. Maybe you care about beauty, then create something today, even if no one sees it. Maybe you care about compassion, then help someone today, even in a small way. Maybe you care about peace, then sit in silence today and let yourself come home. These are not empty gestures. They are powerful acts of remembering. They are how the soul starts to move again. And this leads to the fifth teaching: suffering can become a doorway. When life feels meaningless, it's easy to sink into despair. But the Buddha taught that suffering, when met with awareness, can lead to awakening. You are not wrong for feeling empty. You are human. And sometimes the emptiness is necessary. It clears out what was false. It softens what was rigid. It prepares you to receive something new. So don't rush to fill the space. Don't numb it. Sit with it. And say, I don't know what's next, but I am here. That willingness to stay with yourself, even in darkness, is strength. It is the kind of strength that lasts. It is how seeds grow. And finally, the sixth teaching is this practice anyway. Even when you don't feel motivated, even when you feel numb, even when you want to give up, get up, breathe, sit, move, be present. Buddhist monks wake early not because they always feel inspired, but because discipline creates freedom. You don't need to feel ready to begin again. You just need to begin. In that act of showing up for your life, something shifts. Not always right away, but slowly, quietly. And one day, without realizing it, you'll look around and feel something new: aliveness. The return of color? A spark of direction. Not because life became perfect, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. Because you learned to meet each moment with presence. Instead of waiting for motivation to arrive like lightning, if you've made it this far, you're already doing something extraordinary. You're not looking away. You're not running. You're choosing to face the fog of meaninglessness with courage. And that, more than inspiration, more than ambition, is the root of true motivation. The willingness to be with what is, to stay when it's hard, to keep showing up. And this is the quiet truth the Buddha knew, that staying present with your suffering doesn't destroy you, it transforms you. The lotus flower grows from the mud, not in spite of it, but because of it. Meaning doesn't always arise from moments of joy. It often begins in the soil of confusion, loneliness, or even despair, but only if you stay long enough to listen. So many people wait for motivation to arrive like a lightning bolt, but Buddhist practice reveals something different. That motivation is not something you chase, it's something you cultivate, breath by breath. You create it not with force, but with rhythm. By practicing even when you don't feel like it. By remembering that meaning is not found in some future version of yourself, it's found here, in this inhale, this exhale, this gentle act of not giving up. So when the voice in your head says, what's the point? You don't argue with it, and you don't fight it. You say softly, maybe I don't know yet, but I will walk anyway. And the very act of walking becomes your purpose. Not where you're going, but how you show up to the path. The Buddha himself spoke of the middle way, not indulgence, not denial, but balance. And that's how you move forward when life feels meaningless. Not by swinging between extremes, not by trying to feel amazing, but by taking small, steady, mindful steps. One act of presence, one act of care, one honest conversation with yourself. And slowly, the fog begins to lift. You find meaning in a cup of tea you actually taste, in a walk you take without headphones, just to feel your feet on the ground, in lighting a candle, in cleaning your space, in calling someone who makes you feel seen. These things aren't meaningless, they're sacred. And when you begin to treat your life like it matters, motivation slowly begins to return, not as fire, but as warmth. And now, more than ever, you must remember this. You are not your feelings. You are the awareness behind them. The Buddha taught that all things arise and pass away. Thoughts, emotions, circumstances, even hopelessness, even numbness. These are not who you are. They are visitors. When you feel like giving up, pause. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your own heartbeat. Say to yourself, even now, I choose to stay with me. This is the foundation of all motivation, loyalty to your own spirit, a quiet refusal to abandon yourself. You don't need a vision board to begin again. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know the next 10 steps. You just need to breathe and take the one that's in front of you. The Buddha never said life would be easy. He said life involves suffering, but that we can be free from unnecessary suffering. Much of your mental exhaustion may not come from what's happening, but from your resistance to what's happening. And when you stop fighting your current season, you find energy you didn't know you had. You find that peace doesn't mean everything feels good. It means you are no longer divided inside yourself. You are not waiting to be someone else. You are living from where you are. And that is power. So let's remember the path. Let go of the pressure to always feel inspired. Begin exactly where you are, with breath. Simplify your focus one step at a time. Release the need for life to be grand. Anchor yourself in your inner values. Trust that suffering, met with presence, can become awakening. And above all, practice anyway. Even when you feel like you're going through the motions, something within you is being rewired. You're learning to trust the process more than the outcome. You're learning to stay with yourself instead of abandoning your path. And in that faithfulness, motivation is reborn. Not as a loud roar, but as a whisper that says, keep going, there's something worth discovering here. You may not know what it is yet, but one day, without warning, it will reveal itself. In a moment of joy that catches you off guard, in a task that suddenly feels sacred, in a connection that brings tears to your eyes. And you'll realize you didn't get here by force. You got here by staying. By staying in your body when it ached. By staying in your life when it felt flat. By staying with your breath when your mind ran wild. You kept returning. And that is enough. Let this be your mantra. Now I stay with myself. Write it in the comments. Let it be a vow, a reminder, a light for someone else in the darkness. And remember this too. The sun still rises even when you forget. Your breath still moves even when you're tired. Life continues even when you can't see the point. Because meaning isn't something you find. It's something you make moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. So keep going. Gently, faithfully. Present. And let your presence be your purpose.